Ministers are expected to make a decision on whether to bring in new rules early next week. The number of COVID-related staff absences is said to be putting heavy pressure on the NHS.
It has been intense. I would say this has been quite like a rapid, steep incline, which previously in the other waves it tended to feel a bit more we were able to predict it, but Omicron seems to have come on really quickly. We felt almost like we were coming to a point where things were getting better and improving, but just shows the nature of COVID and of Omicron specifically. You never can predict things, and it just, I think there's a sense of vulnerability amongst the staff members.
Meanwhile, vaccination centres are open today as coronavirus cases continue to rise. Staff and volunteers are taking part in what's being called the Jingle Jab campaign. They'll also be giving vaccines and booster jabs on Boxing Day. More than 122,000 cases were recorded yesterday. The Queen's annual Christmas message will be broadcast at 3 o'clock this afternoon. This will be Her Majesty's first festive period without her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, who died in April. Buckingham Palace released this photo of the Queen alongside a picture of their diamond wedding anniversary taken in 2007. And the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have also posted a Christmas message on Twitter saying they're thinking of those who are alone or having to isolate from their loved ones. In other news, the UK government has condemned Iran's ballistic missiles launch. During 5 days of military drills, Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired multiple ballistic and cruise missiles in the Gulf. The country's top military commanders say they were sending a warning to Israel following concerns that nuclear sites are going to be targeted. Iran maintains its nuclear ambitions are peaceful. The most expensive telescope ever will launch into space this afternoon. Costing around £7 billion, the James Webb Space Telescope is 100 times more sensitive than its predecessor, Hubble. Scientists believe the quest will transform our understanding of the universe, as it has the ability to scan images of different life forms and of the very first stars.
It is going to do something like we've seen with Hubble, with the Hubble Deep Field, where we stared at a blank part of sky and saw just so many galaxies, and it was incredible to know that all those galaxies were hiding there in the early universe, and we just needed to look long enough to see them. What Webb is going to do, it's going to push beyond that, and it's going to be sensitive to galaxies that are more distant and younger, that really formed closer to the start of the universe.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger has donated £190,000 to help provide housing for war veterans in Los Angeles. The money has bought 25 homes with beds and heating to help homeless veterans. In a tweet, the former governor of California says, "Charity is what Christmas is all about." That's your latest news update. I'll be back in an hour.
Thanks, Bethany. Now, it's just gone 11 a.m, so some of you may have started cooking your Christmas dinner. So stay with us. We are now joined by a man who might have some valuable advice. Chef Duncan Tinkler, Merry Christmas to you. Now, we're going to get on to Christmas dinner tips in a moment, but first, you are the head chef and innovator of Bangers and Balls. So first of all, we have got to ask you, haven't we, Brad?
We have.
How did you come up with that name, and what is Bangers and Balls all about?
Well, Bangers and Balls are a seasonal food brand. We came up with the name because we originally were all about meatballs and sausages, bangers, and we still are. But we have evolved from just doing meatballs and sausages to really embracing seasonality and foraging and basically revolutionising the way we look at food, about where the food comes from and how we consume it and things like that, and how it affects our lives mentally, physically, and all this kind of stuff. And we've put that together, and we've launched the Kitchen Table Revolution, which is what we're doing to revolutionise our relationship with food.
Now, Duncan, Christmas Day is a massive day for cooking. People up and down the country will be busting out the pots and pans today. Some may have even started last night. I know my dad did.
I did, start the prep.
Timings are key, as you said, Ellie. I just want to know, what are your top tips then, Duncan, for people who might be maybe cooking Christmas dinner for the first time today?
Well, Well, it's a bit too late to give the advice to do a lot of the prep the day before. So next year, maybe that's what you should be doing. But doing loads of, there's a lot of stuff you can do early on. So, if you're not going to have lunch until 3:00 this afternoon, just get started now. Do it in small chunks. So you get like a chunk done, and then you can go and, do some presents or, go caroling or whatever it is you want to do instead, and then go back or go down the pub if you can. That kind of thing, and then do another chunk. So that breaks it down so you don't feel overwhelmed. I think overwhelm is a big problem. You see all these things and you're like, what do I do? So you just start. And the other one is I always start with the gravy, because that's quite a simple thing to start with, like start making a stock or something like that, something simple, and then just gradually build it up would be my main advice.
Great tip there, thank
Gravy
you. Very good.
first. I normally do the gravy last.
But there you go. I can take all these tips. I'm cooking for Bradley later, so we need to be taking all these tips on board. Now, Duncan, what do we do if something goes wrong? It's a very high stress day, lots of different things going on, lots of different elements. How do you keep calm, and how do you try and solve a cooking crisis if one happens on Christmas Day?
Well, I think you nailed it on the head when you said keep calm. So as soon as the crisis arises, whatever that may be, it's just, I put the kettle on, make a cup of tea or something like that. Take a step back, see what the actual problem is. For example, one year my oven blew just as I was about to start cooking. So that we had 20 people, which is before COVID times. We had 20 people coming around in our tiny flat. We're in London with this tiny flat, and luckily, a friend, my wife's cousin, was around the corner, so I was able to nip. She'd gone off for Christmas, so went to her flat, cooked it all, and ferried it away.
Wow.
So there is a solution to these things. What I did though at the time was, you have that moment of panic, don't you? My oven's blown, I can't do Christmas, or one of the reindeers has smashed through the window or something, and you just got to stop. Make a cup of tea, or, just go outside in the garden or whatever you can, just to clear your head, and then come in and assess the problem. What is the problem? How do I solve it? I mean, there's always a solution to everything. So, say that. But
I love that. Tea is the answer to everything.
Tea is the answer. I think I am going to be having a few cups of tea when I come around to yours later.
Yeah.
Just take a break.
Take 5. I love that,
watch the chaos ensue.
Yeah.
But lots of people.
I tend to plan my entire cooking around cups of tea, whether I'm working or doing. So, I'll put the kettle on, assess the situation, drink the tea, and then once I've done a thing, then it's right. Put the kettle on, and then what's next? And then while that's boiling, you can be thinking about it. While you're making a tea, you're kind of planning it, fine-tuning it, and then by the time you're drinking the tea, you're able to get on with the next thing in a much more calm manner. So I don't work for any tea companies or anything. I'm not.
Well, I was going to ask Duncan, because there might be a few more other people who might be having kind of oven malfunctions today, and God knows what else. But I just want to know if, people might be who are isolating, of course, today, lots of people alone for the first time. They might be turning their heads to the cupboard and looking at those kind of store cupboard ingredients. What's a nice, easy thing that people could whip up with what they've just got in the top cupboard, for instance?
Putting you on the spot, Duncan.
Yeah, you are a little bit. No, but, I mean, at Christmas time, generally people have quite a lot of stuff in, don't they? Unless, of course, like, for example, we were supposed to be having Christmas with my family, and we got all the meat and stuff. We didn't have. We had a last minute vegetable emergency yesterday, but something that you can just whip up from the cupboard. It's quite easy to make things like if you've got whatever leftover vegetables you've got like that, you can do a little funky stir fry to go with it. You make things a bit different. Quite easy to do. So just chucking a few onions with a garlic and ginger, and then have something a bit different like that. Or it depends. I always go back to the gravy. Whatever your dinner looks like, however, if you've got really delicious gravy on top of it, that elevates it so it really works really highly. So
Duncan,
try.
that's a
Don't
great
just.
tip. Duncan, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We're really tight for time. That's a great tip. So we can make up a stir fry if you're at home isolating. Remember, always just sit back and have a cup of tea. Don't let the stress get to you today. That's a top tip there from Chef Duncan Tinkle. Thank you very much
cup of tea
for
always
joining
helps.
us. And do send us your pictures, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We want to see what you're cooking up today and how you're celebrating your Christmas day. Merry Christmas to you.
Now, today we're also celebrating people who have helped others during the pandemic and those, like us, who are working today. Hayley Steer started Free My Meal in August last year as an answer to food poverty. She came up with the idea during lockdown to help make sure that adults and children who may be in need of a meal have access to one. Hayley wanted to marry up food waste with food poverty, and she joined GB News a little earlier.
It's been a really wild time, actually, and from starting this and thinking that we might help perhaps 50 people, it has just gone on and grown bigger and bigger. And this year, I'm just so pleased that we're able to do the same again, really, and help those in need. I'm really, really excited to continue with Free My Meal, and I just feel really lucky, actually, that it feels like a small snowball, and it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at times, it has felt like holding on to like a rubber dinghy going down rapids and thinking, right, we can do this, because it's just been it's grown so quickly, so fast. But, it's helped an awful lot of people, and I am incredibly grateful for that. Helping your community was basically at the forefront of it. And in the way that you might, when somebody has a new baby, for example, or when somebody moves house, you go around and take them, I don't know, a dish of lasagna. It was that kind of thing. It was like, okay, well, maybe there's a way that we can marry up. Oh, look, there's me and Maz and Vicky. There's a way that we can marry up what people aren't using to help their own communities. It is really, we do obviously tell people they have to adhere to our guidelines, which are on all of our groups. The Environmental Health Agency, we have their guidelines on there, of course. But in the same way that probably millions of people are cooking for friends and family today, it's that kind of thing. If you've got an extra portion of something or an extra dinner, you can give it to somebody that's just down the road. And all we're doing is connecting the two, basically, and marrying up, as we say, potential food poverty, people in need, with food, what is potentially food waste, because there is so much food waste. 6.6 million tonnes of food is wasted, and that is just outrageous. It just is too much, in my opinion.
Well, that was Hayley Steer, who started Free My Meal in August. And we want to know what you guys are doing at home today. What are you up to? Let us know. There's many ways that people can do that, Ellie, isn't there? Yep,
gbviews@gbnews.uk. And you can also get in touch with us on social media at GB News. We're both on Twitter, so do get in touch. Keep us company on this very lovely Christmas day. And we really hope you're enjoying your day, whatever you're up to today. We know lots of people are in isolation, lots of people spending Christmas Day by themselves for the first time. Maybe you're up to cooking for the first time. We just heard there from Chef Duncan Tinker. He was telling us, just have a cup of tea. Don't let the stress get to you. Yeah. Just take 5 minutes.
Have a cup of tea.
So, that's what we'll be doing later. I'm cooking for Bradley later on this afternoon, so we've got lots to look forward to, haven't we? But yeah, we want to see your pictures, so let us know what you're up to. Send them all in to us, and we'll be sharing them with you in our special 12 till 2 programme this afternoon.
Now, coming up next, no subjects are off limits as Alex Phillips takes us back through the past year in Let's Talk About 2021. But first, here's your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, Merry Christmas. A festive frost to wake up to if you're in Scotland. It will be cold throughout today in the north and the east. Wet elsewhere and fairly mild in the southwest. Big contrasts across the country at the moment. We've got cold air sinking south across northern parts of the country, the dividing line being this weather front. And this weather front brings milder and wetter conditions to the southwest. So outbreaks of rain throughout much of the day, I think, for Wales, into parts of central southern England, the southwest. The rain on and off, but heavy and persistent at times. Further north, staying dry for the time being, but rather cloudy for Northern Ireland, much of northern and central England, East Anglia, and further north again, sunny spells for Scotland and parts of northern England. Cold in the north, feeling even colder in the strong wind which we'll see across the north and especially over hills. much milder further south, 11 or 12 Celsius in the southwest, but not feeling very pleasant because of the wet weather throughout much of the day. That rain, though, does march north through the Christmas Day night, and it's likely to mix with the colder air further north. And so over the Pennines, the higher ground of central and southern Scotland, above 300 or 400 metres, the risk of disruptive snow and even some drifting because of the strong winds accompanying that snow. So some tricky conditions on some trans-Pennine routes and the higher parts of southern and central Scotland first thing tomorrow. Drier and brighter, but rather frosty to start things off for the north of Scotland. And for Northern Ireland, Wales, Western England, showers on and off with some brighter spells in between. Staying mild in the southwest, 11 or 12 Celsius once again on Boxing Day. Much colder further north and east, and any rain or hill snow tending to fizzle out later. There'll be some rain and hill snow again on Monday here and there, but otherwise a good deal of cloud and many places turning drier by Tuesday. And then from the middle of next week, it becomes much milder.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome to a special edition of We Need to Talk About. I'm Alex Phillips, and this is a look back at some of the big questions I've been posing in 2021. And on Christmas Day, it feels appropriate to ask, are we still a Christian country? My first choice focuses on the falling popularity of the church and whether our increasingly secular society lacks the moral compass that religion once gave us. Politics and religion, never to be brought up in polite company. To ask someone their beliefs, secular or theological, was for a long time cultural taboo. Yet today has seen an explosion in political identity. Remainer, Leaver, Socialist, Conservative, Marxist, Libertarian, Communist. The centre ground ceded to a rebirth of political polarity. But what about religion? While imported religions are emboldened in our multi-faith society to proudly wear the tags of identity, the religion of this country sits meekly in the corner, oftentimes derided, denied, and discarded. The official religion of the United Kingdom is Protestant Christianity. The Church of England, our state church, and the monarch, the supreme governor. Our Queen was anointed defender of the faith by the Archbishop of Canterbury during her coronation in Westminster Abbey almost 70 years ago. Yet, as head of the Commonwealth and sovereign of modern Britain, she has very much styled herself as defender of all faiths. Christianity in Britain is not something that screams about its existence, but is intrinsically woven into the fabric of our society. Or perhaps the fabric of our society is woven into it. To grow up British is in many respects to grow up culturally Christian, even though doctrinal Christianity is under assault. Christianity is like many particles of air, breathed in, but totally imperceptible. The values by which we expect others to live find their genesis in the Bible. Historian Tom Holland compared the ancients' brutality and savagery to society today, the uncompromising supremacy and hierarchy of might banished to the realms of our cruel and inhumane ancestors. Unthinkable in today's world of welfare that fights exploitation, advocates universal rights, and promotes what have become accepted moral virtues. How did we get from there to here? In short, Christianity utterly transformed the world. For many of us, our interaction with Christianity is at once inherent, yet invisible. Our occasional practice exhibited, perhaps perversely, as consumers for what have become primarily commercialised festivals. Congregations have collapsed, while consensuses betray a sharp decline in religious engagement. Yet how many of us, when facing tragedy, turn